Hi folks, it's the Florida Man here, and unless I've really screwed something up, this video is coming out on Star Wars Day, otherwise known as my wife's birthday. I'll hopefully be busy spending time with her today, but I wouldn't want you to miss your regularly scheduled diplomacy content. So I prepared this video in advance. Today, we're discussing how the lessons of Star Wars relate themselves to diplomacy. Specifically, we're going to talk about how the Sith and their evil ways are actually well adapted for success in the game. It's not for nothing that the Sith were able to build a galactic empire. Because the dark side is strong in diplomacy. To start with, the Sith know that you should use your emotions. Specifically, you should use your aggressive feelings, your negative, destructive emotions as fuel. Tap into the anger, fear, and resentment of yourself and fellow players. Let the hate flow through you. Seriously, I think you'll find that getting annoyed at another player for going against you and throwing all your fire at that player as a result is a good way of disincentivizing people from backstabbing you. If this fight doesn't take you out of the game, you will have established your street cred, and that will pay dividends for the remainder of that game. You've already indicated that you respond with overwhelming force against any perceived betrayal. Now all you have to do is keep your guard up sufficiently that it will not look very tempting to betray you, given the perceived consequences. In Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader responds with overwhelming force and staggeringly effective human resource practices whenever he finds an employee to be disloyal, in the sense of daring to fail him more than once. Specifically, he kills insubordinate or poorly performing employees, and he does so right in front of other employees. Sort of like killing two birds with one stone. Presumably, the survivors learn the lesson from this: never to fail Darth Vader themselves. Related to this, in diplomacy, you can use fear to keep the other nations in line, even when they're not in a formal alliance with you. Fear of your destructive power. Fear of what you might do with all those fleets and armies if you don't get your way. Fear, personal charm, and the resentment of players toward one another are the only real tools you have to create janissaries. These satellite countries whose units act as your own stormtroopers are a major asset in a significant number of the games that end in solos. In Star Wars: A New Hope, the Death Star is a potentially very powerful asset in terms of creating fear in enemies of the Empire, which is why the rebel scum feel the need to destroy it. A testament to how powerful a tool this symbol of fear would have been if it were not destroyed due to an intentional design flaw and the use of literal space magic is the fact that the Emperor's political power became sufficiently secure after he had the Death Star completed that he felt comfortable dissolving the Senate as soon as it was done. With the fear of your planet being destroyed hanging over the galaxy's residents, it would have been much easier to forcibly recruit soldiers, raise taxes as high as the Emperor needed, or wanted, and generally enforce a zero-tolerance policy for rebellion. Fear is useful in another sense too. Fear of other players, and their treacherous designs, is a great secret to breaking alliances apart. In a recent game I played as France, I worked to break up an alliance between Austria and Turkey over a period of years. But the message that finally produced a stab was not a promise of gains if the recipient worked with me. Rather, it was a warning that his ally intended to stab him. Once Austria decided that he really believed Turkey planned to stab him, he had almost no choice but to launch a preemptive strike. That's what fear does. It sets people against each other, even when rational, sober analysis might allow them to continue helping each other for years. This may be one of your most valuable tools, because what I've found consistently, both in and out of diplomacy, is that reason and logic have a certain amount of persuasive power. But if you really want to persuade anyone to take action on anything, emotion is the most powerful persuasive tool you can use, and fear is the most primitive and powerful emotion. In Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, fear of the Trade Federation and its plans for Naboo leads the heroes to rashly move for a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum in hopes that a sudden change of who's in power will lead to an immediate solution to their problem. For those who may not remember, Chancellor Valorum was actually relatively sympathetic to the situation on Naboo, which was presumably why he sent the Jedi to negotiate the trade situation in the first place. The decision to kick him out of office does not actually lead to any help for the people of Naboo, and all the betrayal does lead to is the election of totally trustworthy, and not a Sith Lord at all, Chancellor Palpatine. Another important tool to turn people against each other is resentment. If one player in an alliance is benefiting more than another, or if you can argue that player is benefiting more in a convincing way, you can foment resentment. The gap between the allies that resentment creates will either provoke a rebalancing of the alliance, or a potentially heated discussion, and frequently it creates a breach between the two players that will likely only widen over the long term. Think of how the future Emperor appoints Anakin Skywalker to the Jedi Council in Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith. Chancellor Palpatine is flattering Anakin, and incurring no cost to himself, and at the same time he puts Anakin in the position of feeling entitled to the title of Jedi Master, which the future Emperor knows the Council will be reluctant and probably unwilling to give Anakin. This creates a conflict between Anakin and the Council, and ultimately the gap between the Council's position and Anakin's ego leads to a widening rift between himself and the Council, and ultimately Anakin's permanent defection from the Jedi Order. And although this line is not referenced in any movie, the Sith Code contains a line that peace is a lie, and that is always the rule in diplomacy. Any peace that you propose or accept should always be considered as a temporary measure, just designed to allow you to secure another border before you resume the attack, or to cause the opponent to drop their guard. If you remember these lessons, you too can achieve unlimited power. Come back next year, and we'll discuss whether the Jedi have anything to contribute to your understanding of diplomacy. We hope you've enjoyed these secrets that you can't learn from any Jedi. I hope you liked this video. If you did, you too can participate in helping me make and promote great diplomacy content, either by joining my supporters on Patreon or by writing subtitles for the videos in other languages, in addition to liking, subscribing, and commenting, all of which helps this channel grow. Follow the links in the video description or comment below for more. And I would like to briefly thank the people who are already helping me out via the methods I've mentioned, whose names and screen names are on the screen now. Let's keep going and make this the biggest diplomacy community out there. Let's try and hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Until next time, Florida Man out.